Hi all, good evening. My name is Baskar and she is Swetha.
Hi everybody.
Right. This is the first of the live streams for members only that we are doing. We'll kickstart this session with something very, very meaningful, right? We'll be doing sessions on quant questions. We'll be doing on quant concepts, on verbal concepts, verbal questions. Those come in the future editions. This edition, I thought we should touch upon some very crucial things as a run-up to the GMAT examination, what you should be doing with just 1 week to your GMAT examination, right? Should we get started with that?
Absolutely.
But she has taken the GMAT twice, scored a 750 once, 780 once. So she's the veteran in this room. So she should be able to tell us what she did during her 2 weeks before the 2 tests that she actually took, right?
Yeah, I have lots of stories.
Right.
And it's not like he hasn't written the GMAT. I mean, he doesn't boast about it, but he has a perfect Q51 on the test. So.
Right. What did you do with 7 days to the examination? What did you actually do?
Okay, right before those 7 days, I was very keen on taking a lot of mocks and getting my practice in. Because I take classes for the verbal section of the GMAT, I didn't have to prepare too much for the verbal section, but my quant skills are not as good as yours. So I spent a lot of time doing practice questions. I had my weak areas, which I had identified, and I spent 6 hours a day in the last 1 week on just practicing quant questions.
Okay. The last one, as in like, if let's say 20th is your examination, right. Starting 13th of a month, you basically did quant questions.
Yes,
6 hours a day.
Yes, because I knew that was my weak area. I knew that is what I had to work on if I wanted to get an overall good score. So I made sure that I did lots and lots of practice questions. And I focused on the areas within quant that I was not good at. So I selected the topics, practice questions.
Is that what you would advise everyone? This is what you did.
Yes.
But if you have to advise someone who is not taking verbal classes, someone who is not taking quant classes, someone who knows that there is something already in their bag and just needs to focus on the other, that's like probably either Swetha or me. I take quant classes, right? But if it is not that, is that what you would advise anyone?
Well, I would still advise that you invest a lot of time on your preparation. If you're working, it's a good time to take a week's break from work.
Absolutely. See, one thing, it is very, very important to tune off from your work, which is...
Absolutely. You don't want to be reading an RC passage and then thinking about what am I going to discuss in this meeting and do I have my presentation in place. Then you're not focusing on the meeting, you're not focusing on getting your reading comprehension skills in place either.
So basically, just taking this week off is, I would say, even mandatory to get a good score. You can't be taking just the day of the examination off and then go and write the test. And it would be a miracle if you score anything over 700, right? It's purely to get conditioned to the exam mode that you should probably have the last week off.
Right. And when we say take a week off from work, we basically mean tune off from all distractions. So if you take a week off from work and then you go onto Facebook or you're on WhatsApp all the time, it's not helping you. You don't want anything distracting you from this GMAT bubble that we would like you to put yourself in.
Right. So then there are some very procedural things that you'll have to take. This is like one is taking the week off and focusing on the areas that you need to improve on. Right. Look at the procedural thing. There are a couple of things that you should be doing a week before the GMAT examination. The first and foremost, pick your passport. Right. Check out if the passport is going to be valid on the day of the test. Right. The test is on the 20th of a month. Then check out whether the passport is valid on the 20th of that month. Right. That's the first check. The second check that you need to do is pick the appointment, the schedule that you got from GMAT to take the test. Check whether the name in it matches the one in the passport. If it does not match what is there in the passport, you have a week to basically get in touch with the GMAT call center and change your name. You'll have to basically fax, you'll have to give a scanned copy of your passport for them to edit it in their records to match what is there in the passport. Right? So ensure this is done 7 days before your test date.
Right, absolutely. Now we have a video on our channel that talks about how you need to check on the passport name. So if you're a regular and you're probably wondering why are they talking about the passport so much? 10 years of taking GMAT classes, 10 years of saying this to every batch, and we still hear students come to us and say, I went to the test date, but I couldn't write it. They're being so unfair, they wouldn't let me in.
And in India, at least in South India, the surname is basically an initial. And they'll say, everything in my records carry that as an initial. As in your Aadhaar card would carry it as an initial. It's not going to carry it as an expanded name unless you choose to.
Right.
So everywhere it is that these guys are not allowing to write me.
Right. And it's understandable. You are under a lot of pressure. You're working, you're preparing and focusing on your verbal and your GMAT quant score seems like a more important thing. But this is important too, because no matter how much prep you do, if you're not going to be allowed inside the test center, what was all that prep for?
And that basically demoralizes you. You come back and then you probably have lost the $250 because it's practically a no-show. And then you would be kicking yourself, saying, hey, how can I be such a whatever, right? That I didn't even check this basic thing. So don't let that happen to you.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I would also do, I mean, like if I were a test taker, if I'm going to be writing the test, I'll have a target score in hand, right? In my mind, I'll say that like the schools that I'm planning to apply to have this kind of a score. For sake of convenience, let's look at that number to be a 720 right now, right? I have a target score of 720. See, in a week to the examination, I have 7 days to the examination, and I know I'm going to be focusing on this examination for the next 7 days. You could easily increase your points from 80 to 100. That's definitely possible if you focus on the areas that you have to focus on. But let's say I want a 720, and a week before the examination, I take a mock, and a mock that is representative of the actual GMAT, right? Actual GMAT, and I end up getting a 450. It would be a miracle to expect a 450 to become a 720 in a week.
Absolutely.
So have that reality check.
Absolutely.
If it is 80 to 100 points, you'll be able to increase it. If it's a 200 point, 250 points, that is what you have to increase to get your target score. You'll be better off postponing the test. To do that, you have to do it a week before the exam schedule date.
Absolutely.
So the 7 days before the examination has quite a few things to cross-check.
Right. So probably 8 days or 9 days before your test, you should be taking a mock. And taking this mock will allow you to know a couple of things. Your status check, so you know whether you're going to be able to get your target score, or whether you need to reschedule the test date, right? Second, it's also going to let you know if you have not chosen the schools, you're going to be able to say, this is the range in which I'm scoring. And if you're going to take your decision on your B school selection based on your score, you can say something like, these are probably my target scores.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And then you can make your school selection, which you can then use to choose your 5 schools while you are when you're starting your GMAT.
Right. And a couple of things. See, check out what your test appointment time is. I mean, these are all the things. It takes a week for you to get used to it. If let's say your exam time is scheduled between 1 in the afternoon and 4 in the evening, right? And if you're someone like me who's used to taking a siesta in the afternoon, right? Then, and if you've scheduled a test time between 1 and 4, in this 1 week, you jolly well change your habits. Change it from not taking a siesta and actually probably taking your mocks between 1 and 4 and get used to being at your best during that time.
Right.
And if I were the person who's going to be taking the GMAT, I will never schedule it between 1 and 4 because that's my siesta time. I don't take a nap for 3 hours, but it falls within that zone. So that essentially, I would
it's a 15-minute power nap, but it falls sometimes.
Right. So I would probably look at a 8 to 11 slot or something that does not clash with it. So check what works for you. And if it is the only slot available for you in the test center that you're planning to take the test, then change your habit during this week. So these are little things that you need to, as in, you don't expect a max performance on a day if there are things that you have not factored in before the test date.
Correct. And you can, again, another seemingly small thing, but you can check out the traffic on Google Maps at around the time that you would be traveling to the center. That'll give you a good idea of how much travel time you're going to have. And you can also plan your test day. When am I going to start from home? How soon should I get there? All of that can be planned. Mode of transportation. If you know not just where the center is, but also the typical amount of traffic you're going to have on the streets.
This is 1 week. So 1 week, let's quickly sum up what are the things that you need to do. About 8 to 9 days, as she mentioned, take a mock, check out if your score is somewhere close with 80 to 100 point range of your target score. If that is the case, then you should not postpone the test. You have a good chance of making it to that if you invest effective preparation during the next week. Right? But if it is 200 points away from your target score, you'll be better off postponing the examination to a later date, increase your level of preparedness, and then appear for the test. Third, check whether the appointment name and the one in the passport matches what is given in the passport. If not, you have a recourse to actually correcting it. And lastly, check out whether your passport is valid on the day of the test. So these are the things that you should be doing with 1 week, with 7 days to the examination.
Right. The most important part of that is effective preparation, right? You can't expect to not do, if you're not doing any preparation or you are not analyzing your preparation, identifying your weak areas and working on it. If you're doing the same thing over and over again with no difference or barely doing anything, you can't expect an 80-point jump in your scores. Then it's going to be a plus or minus 10 points. Right?
Absolutely. As in, like you would be surprised to get even a 10 point because you can't expect the same result doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
You have to identify what your weaknesses are.
That's the definition of crazy. If you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's very likely too that the actual score would be 10, 20 points lower than the mock scores because of the test day environment and nervousness that you have to factor for. So keep all of that in mind.
Right. And it's like, if I can take a leaf of what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of us, when we do these engineering exams, semester exams, depending upon which stream you came from, we'll always say that, like, leave these 3 units of syllabus
Oh yeah.
and still hope to get a good mark, saying that there will be
Right.
something in it which, as in, like, you'll prepare for 60 marks and hope to get a 70, and more often than not, you end up doing that in the engineering examination or
And
probably
if
in
it's
a-
autonomous, you don't have to hope. They'll actually tell you, just prepare for this portion of the syllabus. That's what I'm going to ask you questions from.
that definitely is not going to work with the GMAT. So
Right.
don't think that I'm usually getting a 650 on the test day, something will happen, or GMAT is going to be very generous towards me and they're going to give me another 70-point increase. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
48 hours to the exam. What do you think we should do?
Stop doing everything we've just said. This is the time for you to relax, take a step back, and actually, not be frantic about your preparation, because you don't want to go in. You need to be well prepared, but at the same time, you don't want to go in with a lot of nervousness and tension. Definitely don't take a mock in the last 48 hours. Don't do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. There
Don't
can
do
be
that.
nothing more disastrous than taking a mock in the last 48 hours.
Right.
See, if you're lucky and you get a boost in the score in the last 48 hours, you'll carry that morale with you in the examination. What if it turned out to be you picked a mock test which is probably not representative, or when you took the mock test, something happened that you actually did not do as well as you normally do, and your points come down, right? You normally score around 680, 700, and it ended up being a 620. Look at the kind of motivation and morale that you'll be having as you walk into the examination hall. Don't let that happen in the last 48 hours.
Absolutely.
That's like disastrous. Like, so probably when in the last 1 week, with about 2 to 3 days in the exam, when you have a good score bump, when you're having a good high happening, stop there and then start taking section tests. Section tests do not demotivate you because
For
you're
sure,
doing parts
for
of
sure.
it.
Right. It's kind of like doing revision of the concepts without actually doing it in a mock test environment.
You don't get to see the score,
Yes.
which is a big thing. You don't want to know how bad it is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That in
absolutely.
itself is a big
Right,
help. Right?
right.
So don't do a mock with 48 hours to go.
Right.
What else should one be doing during the mocks? Are there some things that they should be doing with the mocks? How do they analyze the mocks?
Well, when they are taking mocks,
Right.
it is important to identify not just your scores and say, oh, I got a Q48, I'm targeting a Q50, or I got a V30, I need to push it up by another 10 points or so. You need to be looking at what kind of questions you're making mistakes in. A good thing that you can look for is which quarter you're making your mistakes in. Which quarter of the test, right? Because there are patterns even in that to the kinds of errors that people make. For example, I found when I was taking my mocks that in the third quarter, or rather the third reading comprehension passage, right, in the verbal section,
You switch off.
I was switching off,
Right.
So, okay, so that told me I need to make sure I'm concentrating. I need to, if I'm looking at the passage, then just, okay, I'm doing an RC passage, this is the third passage, this is when I normally switch off. So I'm just going to close my eyes for 30 seconds and take a mini break and then get into the
Can you
passage.
just repeat that? This has worked wonders for me too. Can you just repeat that?
Just take a 30-second break in the middle of the test. That's perfectly fine.
You don't need to be tuned in all 62 minutes of the quant, all 65 minutes of the verbal.
Right.
There are times within that. See, it's a long examination. It's a 3 hour, 7 minutes examination. So there are times when you're going to be going low on your concentration. The easiest thing to do is to switch off for 30 seconds. Switch off for 45 seconds. Come back. You'll be like completely focused. Trying to go with a completely decreasing line, the downward sloping line is going to lead you to disaster. Break that.
Absolutely.
Take a 30-second break.
Right.
Close your eyes. Enjoy.
Right.
That's a 30-second siesta. It's going to nap, power nap. That'll help you actually come back. That's a beautiful tip.
Absolutely. It has helped
Right.
for the first years. Right.
The other thing is like, to again recap what she said. See, the thing that you should not be focusing on is on your output metrics. During the preparation time, focus on your input metrics. See, don't say that I'll have to push the 38 to 40. Don't say I'll have to push the 48 to 50. How are you going to push it? Have you got a crowbar to push it? No. The only way you can do it
That
is...
would work. Everyone would be grabbing a crowbar for the GMAT.
Absolutely. The needle that you can move is like, check out what kind of mistakes am I making. Is the mistakes that I'm doing, are they in data sufficiency? Are they questions that are related to communication and sentence correction? What are the typical Achilles heel for me? And focus on improving that. Check out. And it's not just doing so many more questions and saying, some of the videos Swetha would have mentioned in the sentence correction. Don't say that like whenever I see this from will not come here or in will not come here. That's not the way to look at it.
Right.
You'll have to say that like why is from accepted here or not accepted here. Try and go behind the reason for anything that is said the way it is said.
Right.
And get the meaning, so you're better off answering any equivalent question, not just answering that question.
Right. People come to us and they say, I've done 2,000 questions practice and I'm still not able to crack the GMAT. I've been preparing for 1.5 years. I'm not able to crack the GMAT. It is not about the volume of practice that you are doing or the amount of time that you're investing. It is about the quality of that preparation. So make sure you are doing that analysis of your practice, analysis of your mock test. It's not enough to say sentence correction is my weak area. You need to say, what can I do to not make it my weak area?
Absolutely. And
right.
pick those things, those little things, and maintain one error log. The error log should be it's an Excel sheet.
Right.
And it can probably run into 500 cells. I don't know how many, the number of different kinds of mistakes that you make. Keep a log of it. Many times we make very similar mistakes. Right. We overlook the same things. We will not read the question correctly. We would have made a calculation mistake. If before every mock you run through the laundry list of the mistakes that you have made, chances of repeating at least some of them are eliminated.
Absolutely.
That's like 4 questions saved gives you a boost of 40-50 points.
Absolutely. I found this when I was practicing for my quant section. Even when I was practicing the questions and not when I was taking the mocks. I thought I knew my arithmetic concepts better than I knew everything else. And every single time I found that I made a mistake in arithmetic questions, it was because I had misread the question.
Right. And sometimes we're
I
confident
thought they were asking about one value and I calculated it. It was in the answer options I marked and moved on.
Right.
That was not the question at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those little things, and if you made a note of these are the kinds of mistakes I'm making,
you'll be more conscious about it. You'll double read. I double read the question when I was doing it in the test because I knew that's where I'm falling short. That's what I need to be careful about.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's all that it takes, guys. Like making sure that these little things, you keep a log of it, make sure that you don't make the mistake, and don't make this some blind rules. As in like Swetha has done a video on sentence correction. I still remember this. Does GMAT hate the word being?
Right.
Don't pick that. Those rules actually sound nonsensical. They are not that way, right? Check out when is being accepted, when being is not accepted. Use logic, figure that out, and then move on, rather than taking any one of these things. Right? That's the kind of preparation that you should be doing in the week run up to the examination. Right?
Absolutely.
Analysis, analysis. Focus on the inputs. Forget the output. The output metrics will automatically take care of it if you're focused well on your input metrics.
Very true. But wrap it all up before the last 24 to 36 hours. In the last 24 to 36 hours, you can revise a few concepts here and there, but watch a movie, relax, make sure you get a good night's sleep before you take your test.
And whatever you're building, for example, if you're someone who's into exercise, don't cut your exercise in the week to the examination. You should definitely exercise. Don't say that now that I got a week's off, don't spend 7 hours in the gym, but do whatever you normally do. So like keep all those things that you normally do to keep yourself pepped up. Do that. Right. Couple of things here. With 3-4 days to the examination, get into the habit of sleeping at the right time so that you catch 7 to 8 hours of sleep before the day of the examination. Right.
Very true.
The examination is at 8 o'clock, and you think that you should be leaving home at 6 a.m. to be there to get the appointment started at 8 o'clock. Then I think you probably will be waking up at 5 o'clock.
Right.
Which means 8 hours before that, work backwards. At 9:30 in the night, you should be planning to sleep. With 3-4 days before the examination, you can't be sleeping at midnight and hope to catch an 8-hour or 7-hour sleep.
Right. You can't be feeling tired on the day of the test. That's a criminal mistake to do. You want to give it your best, so you want to be at your best and do everything in your control to do that.
And all of these are very essential because these will see to start with. The examination anxiety itself is going to be keeping you edgy. You don't want on top of that the factor that you've not slept well the previous night to add to your fatigue levels that you're not able to focus when you come to the second or the third section of the examination.
Correct.
So you want to avoid all of that with the run up to the examination.
Right.
Eat well, sleep well, and don't do any nonsense.
Right. And start early for the test. The recommendation is that you are there at least an hour ahead of your scheduled time because you need to make sure that you are getting your passport verification and your appointment confirmation and all of that out of the way, and that you're able to start the test on time. You don't want to be rushing in 5 minutes before the scheduled time and then scrambling around because you're late for the test. Don't do that.
Some little things, and these are very relevant in the Indian context, right? Don't drive to the test center. Right? You'll have someone who will be honking behind you, there'll be someone who will be cutting across. You don't want any of these things affecting your mood on the day of the test. It would be better if you take a cab and reach there. And check out whether cab is available in your location at the time that you want. Otherwise, book a private taxi to take you to that day. It's definitely worth it, right? Go there, be there on time. Get off from the cab in style, as in the sense, what I'm saying is I'm not asking you to get a BMW, but don't drive to work, don't try to...
with music playing in the background.
You don't want to be wondering where to park your car, and you don't want to be parking outside a no parking sign, and in the examination hall when you're doing the second RC thinking that, will my car be towed or not towed? You don't want any of those things coming in the way. Plan everything that it is going to be a smooth ride all the way. So don't take any extra tension along the way. Right?
Right.
Is that making sense?
Absolutely. Right. As soon as you go to the test center, they're going to confirm your appointment, make sure you have a scheduled appointment, and they're going to do a bunch of biometrics. So you're going to have people have the admin at the test center verifying your passport, taking your fingerprint in your palm prints, taking a photograph, and also checking your spectacles. So yes, they do. Right. Because they don't want people going in with...
When I took the test in 2015, they didn't check my specs.
They did it now because they don't want people going in with those Google glasses.
Okay.
And taking help from someone. So,
Okay.
so they make you remove your specs and then they check the inside rim to see whether there is a camera or something there.
Wow. Technology is really come a long way. Right.
Yeah, you don't have Google glasses very popular here,
Right.
but they've still been instructed to do that.
Absolutely. See, guys will import Google glasses, which is going to help you get another 100 points.
Right.
So absolutely.
Yeah, it's also why you can't wear a watch into the test center.
I didn't know this, but that's very interesting. I must say, GMAT is like, it's on the forefront of technology.
Yeah, it's making sure that people aren't using technology to get around them.
So what happens? You see, practically, you cannot carry anything other than the clothes that you're wearing.
And your passport.
And your passport, right, inside the house. So all watch, everything that's taken away and kept in the locker, your wallet, your credit cards, everything, they'll be safe in the locker. You can take the locker key with you. You can take the passport into the examination cubicle that you'll be taking the test. Right. So what should one take? What should one not take? What should one watch out for?
Well, you're going to get 2 breaks of 8 minutes each, right? So you want to make sure that you are energetic throughout the 3 hours of the test.
Right.
So it is a good idea to take something that would give you that energy boost. So I carried coffee with me.
Okay.
And I had...
You took it in a flask?
I took it in a flask,
okay.
Yes. And I had a bar of chocolate. So it's just a small, quick bite, but chocolate is supposed to give you instant energy.
Right.
Things like coffee and Red Bull are supposed to keep you awake, right? So you can take some
granola bars, whatever works.
Absolutely, whatever works.
The whole thing is what works for you. Check it during the week to the test.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, you don't want to be having Red Bull for the first time in your life in the exam and
having
a sugar rush. And, like,
exactly.
You don't want that to happen.
Right.
So plan for these. See, how much will they matter? Not sure. But if they do not pull your score down by 20-30 points, that's a big savior. That 20-30 point could translate into an admit in a better college, could translate into more scholarships, could translate into summer internship.
Right.
Lots of these things work that way. So I would go and check out, is it Red Bull that works for me, or is it like granola bars that work for me? It's worth investing a week before the exam. The mocks that I'm taking, I would in fact take my mocks, at least 2-3 of them, to coincide with the exam test time. If it's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'll do at least 3 of my mocks between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. to see that how I'm able to tune in during that time. Am I at my best during, or get used to being at best at that time, right?
Right. Because you don't want to have this hunger in your stomach into the 3rd hour of the test and be distracted by it. Because I know what I did. We talk about all of these experiences, but we still make mistakes. Like the first time I wrote the GMAT, which was 4.5 years ago, you didn't have select section order back then.
Right.
It was a 3.5-hour test.
Right.
And I was doing verbal section as the last section, right? And by then it was super cold in the test center. Mine was an afternoon slot. The air conditioner had been running from the morning. So cold, and there was an AC vent right above my head, so my fingers were frozen. And I was sitting there doing around the 22nd, 23rd verbal question, and I was thinking, oh, it's so cold, oh, it's so cold, oh, it's so cold. So I step out somewhere where it's warm, and I'm also processing the question. So one part of my brain is thinking about the question, and half my brain is thinking about how cold it is.
Right.
So clearly I was not at my best.
Right.
And I finished the verbal section with 18 minutes to spare. So
Right.
imagine someone who had to sit through for the entire 3.5 hours.
Absolutely, absolutely. See,
Right.
couple of things, especially if you're like someone from the tropical weather, like if you're from Mumbai, if you're from Chennai, we guys probably don't see much cold at all, right? And
Right.
these examination centers do tend to get cold because sometimes when you start the test, there are quite a few test takers along with you. There are various tests that happen in any of these peers and test centers, right?
Right.
Some of those tests get over earlier. Some of them would have started a little earlier than you did, which means that by midway through the test center would have an air conditioner which is just blasting on you. It's like being in a morgue many a times. So get acquainted, get used to that. Even when you're taking the test, sit in front of an AC blast if you want, and wear some warm
Something warm,
clothes.
yeah.
Yes, and you can wear it inside. You may not be able to wear it outside, or they'll have to check and verify before they let you have it.
Right. I had a full sleeve,
Right.
thick shirt on the second time I went to the gym.
Absolutely. As in, these are all being prepared. As in,
Yeah.
you don't want to
Because
be
now that I
taking-
knew how the test center would be and
Yes.
that it was getting to me, I didn't want that to happen the second time around.
Absolutely. And like a couple of things, as you start the test, one, she said about these biometrics, spectacle verification, and all of that is done. You get into the hall, you get the first 120 seconds to decide the order in which you want to be taking the test, right? You have done enough number of mocks, probably 6 to 8 mocks before you hit the test center. So you know the order that you're going to be taking that examination. Don't try and experiment on that day.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't read something on, let's say, one of those forums on the way saying that for someone a different order worked and you're trying to change it on the day of the examination.
Right.
Right? Whatever has worked for you till then is what you're going to go with. Right? Even in the examination, when you're doing a question, right, you've done your preparation. So there's a good chance that 90% of the questions that you are coming across, at least a variant of that or the concept you would be aware of.
Yeah, the concept for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
10% of the questions might probably flummox you. There could be a possibility that it happens. Right. The exam time is not the time for you to basically experiment with, do a PhD on a variety of these things.
Right.
You're just going to be solving what you know and come out. If there's a question that's flummoxing you, there's a question for which you have to spend more time, you're better off skipping that. Does it make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Which by skipping, obviously, we mean choosing a random answer and moving on, because
Absolutely.
there's no skip button in the test, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you can and you have the time to spare, see if you can at least narrow down the choices to
Right.
like 3 or 2 of them, and then take an intelligent guess and move on.
Right.
But just because you've invested 1 minute on a question, don't invest another 3 minutes on the question.
Absolutely.
Your objective should be to finish the test on time.
Absolutely. It's like, if I can go to the extent of saying, it's like oversimplification, right? Answer what you know, not for
Right.
something that you have to really dig deeper or think a lot. Right?
Correct.
Because you don't have that kind of time. You have less than 2 minutes for most of the questions in the exam.
Right. I want to address some things that people do. Like my anecdote about feeling too cold and wasting my time on that is just one of the many stories that we hear from students. Right?
Absolutely.
The most common story that we hear is probably that people judge how well they are doing while they are taking the test, and that freaks them out.
Absolutely.
Right. They see a easy question as question number 31 or 32, and they're like, why am I seeing this question now? This is so simple. Does that mean I'm doing a bad job? Does that mean I'm going to get a very bad score on the GMAT? Please don't do that. Please don't judge how the difficulty of the questions. Please don't judge how well you are doing based on the questions that you see.
What she's saying is very true, for the simple reason, what you think is an easy question may not have been an easy question to the rest of the test takers.
Absolutely.
Let's say you're in the quant section, there are 31 questions. Let's say in the 28th question, you get something easy. You probably are super dude in that particular area that you're able to get it in a jiffy. But for the rest of the 90% of the GMAT test takers, that would have been a difficult question that it came into that particular point in time.
Right.
Or GMAT has some of those questions which are not going to count to your score.
Right.
And it could be one of those questions which got embedded as a 28th question. So that has to go into one of those pools as easy, difficult, medium, whatever it is, at a later date. That's not a production question. That's a sandbox question. So why do you judge? All that is there. If it's an easy question, it's going to take you 45 seconds to crack it. Crack it in 45 seconds and move on to the next one. The time that you have saved in this question can be better employed for the next one.
Right. We had a student about a couple of years ago who was more confident about the second section than the first section going into the test. Right. But you remember the story that I'm telling you, right? But after the first section, she had been constantly judging how well she'd been doing while doing the first section, had decided that she had messed up the section. So she spent the 8 minutes basically crying her eyes out in the bathroom instead of mentally prepping for the second section. Which means she didn't score well in her strong area either.
Maybe crying is a good cathartic process to come back and do well. I do not know, but
Perhaps.
her score
But
didn't reflect
yes,
it. Actually.
yes.
Couple of things. We had another person. I don't want some of these guys. Actually, the anecdote that I know of this person, he went into a top 20 business school in the US and was doing very well in life. But this guy came back saying that I had difficulty because I took the examination in a place where there was only enough space for a keyboard, and I couldn't keep my scratch paper and do it.
Right. So I couldn't write out and solve my con questions.
Absolutely. Right. So I found, why can't you keep your keyboard on top? Because the only time that you'll need a keyboard is for the AWA section. Once the AWA is done, you don't need the keyboard at all.
Right. Take it and chuck it behind the monitor.
Absolutely. Chuck it anywhere, as long as it doesn't.
Right.
So that's something. And quite a lot of these stories, we keep hearing people coming and saying that this is what happened and therefore I did not do well. Her not feeling warm or feeling cold is one such story. Prepared for this. In fact, if there is something that you would like to know, go read about these anecdotes of what people felt in their test experiences from the forums. You can have a good laugh a week before the examination and also probably prepared that you are not laughed at.
Right.
Both ways it would help you.
Right. We had people talk about it's an erasable sheet that they give us. What if I want more sheets? Do I have to sit and erase it there? You don't have to. Raise your hand and they will come and give you a new sheet. They're just trying to be a little environment friendly and reuse the same sheets. They will do the erasing behind the scenes. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to pick after yourself.
Right. And it's going to be a marker pen that you're given in order to write on the sheets. And one person said the marker pen was too big and I'm not used to holding a thick pen, so I was not able to take notes. My point is, don't let external factors affect you.
If that is something that matters to you, see, the whole point what Swetha is trying to say is one, it should not matter.
Yes.
But if you think that's going to matter, go to Amazon, right? They will have people who will be selling you lookalikes of GMAT flip sheets, which actually the scratch paper that you're using, they'll have lookalikes of those same markers.
Yeah, right? The markers are actually just like sketch pens these days. They're not really those big whiteboard, blackboard markers that you have.
So if you think that is going to come in the way of your scoring well, invest those $15, $20, get someone, as in Amazon these days probably shipped from US to India. They have all of those things available. Get that and use it. The thing is, if you think anything is going to affect your performance on the day of the examination, get set for it, correct it, get used to it so that you're not saying that is an excuse for you not scoring well.
Right. Or be a very zen person and not let anything external affect you.
No, it might affect us. Right.
Just
because cold is something that is going to affect you. So which means you need to go prepared for it.
True.
Right. And let's forget what I said about someone feeling bad about that marker. You're so used to using a regular pen that day, even you're handed your 4 and 6 or 6 and 7 might look the same. Look the same to you. So you might want to get used to it. So be prepared for it is a more important thing.
Right.
As in, the anecdotes are funny when they are said. But someone went through that and someone had a pain point with that. So if you know that someone had a pain point with it, then it's better that if it is going to be a pain point to you, you might as well course correct it earlier on.
Absolutely.
Once exam is over,
you need to decide whether to choose or cancel the score.
Right.
That's the final step on the test day.
She didn't have to do it either.
Yeah, I just keep my score.
Given a 120-second score preview. And don't decide then. Decide it a week before. You know the schools that you're probably targeting. You know what their scores are. If you're an Indian test taker, keep one thing in mind. Whatever is the median score that they say, add 20 points to it. Because the Indian applicant pool is a very competitive pool. So if they say the median score is probably 710, you probably keep 730 in mind. If that is a school which is very high on your list. So having known that, you also need to have some kind of a breakup. What is it going to be in the verbal and the quant that's going to translate into the 730? Go in with that in mind and say that what is the least that you will settle for?
Right.
If 730 is your target number, you could say that I'm not going to settle for anything less than 730. You can say I will not settle anything less than 750.
Right.
Or you could say that I will not settle for anything less than 710. With this kind of a breakup, have 49 in quant, probably 38 in verbal, have that bare minimum number for each of
you
those.
Could even say I would settle for a 680 because you have an exceptional profile.
Absolutely.
Even though the school's median is 710. So do your research on the school and have some idea of what kind of a score range you can accept.
Absolutely. Right. Then once you hit there and you see that number there, you have to just basically do a mental check saying that this is what I had as a target, below which I would cancel it. If it is above it, I'm going to accept it.
Right.
If it is below it, I'm going to cancel it. So don't get into this dilemma at that point. Should I keep it? Should I not keep it? you have a recourse to it. Within 72 hours of accepting a score, you can cancel it. Within 4 years and 11 months of cancelling a score, you can accept it. All those are there. It's not that you don't have a recourse having made a decision in the exam center. But you should go prepared even for this.
Right. Absolutely. Right. You can even have like 2 target scores.
Right. I look at these schools if I get that. And
absolutely.
Right. And also little things. GMAT is a very important component in the application, scholarship, and post-scholarship, even during your MBA days. And you're doing all of that in your time, not in a different country, worrying whether you're going to be getting visa or whether you're going to get work permit or whether your student visa will expire. None of that is hanging above your head right now. So if it means you have to take another month extra to prepare to get to that score, do that. Do GMAT, get a great score that's going to take you to the place of your choice. Don't compromise on the GMAT right now, that you'll have to compromise on every step further along the way, and that you'll always be wondering, am I going to strike it rich this time at every step along the way?
Right. There's a lot more freedom in your ability to make choices, in your ability to say, this is how I'm going to go about things when you have a good GMAT score. You're not settling in every step of the way.
Absolutely. You don't have to take anything at all that you don't like. Right. With this, we'll call it a day. Just have a quick look if there's any questions. No new questions. Right. Thank you, guys.
Yep. All the best.
Bye.